You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with your host, James Creviston.
Hey, today I have a great comedian for you. And as I explained to him before we got on the podcast, I did the thing where I reached out to him on Instagram and I was like, I know the name. And I looked him up and then I was like, oh, I've seen him before. And I went back and looked again. And I did that like 5-minute back and forth. Like, is that the same person? Am I an idiot? Like back and forth thing. We've all done it. Don't act like I'm the only idiot in the world. Cause I mean, I am, but there's a lot of people that do the same thing. So I put two and two together because I can use context clues, everybody. And then I have the very funny and talented Jay Stevens. Jay, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. Thank you. Oh, man, I have been introduced a lot of different ways, but the word great has never been in there. I salute you for that one.
What, have they like never met you or watched your stand-up? Because your stand-up's great. Like it really like resonated with me because like you talk about Alabama, you talk about growing up, you talk about those. I grew up in Texas. That's kind of very similar, the South and those things like that. So when you talk, it was very much a lot of like, oh, that's my childhood too. Those are things that I dealt with. Like, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that the joke, I'm actually from Cleveland, Ohio, representing Cleveland.
Okay.
So I always like to throw that out there because
Yeah.
for years we've been getting so much that man, Cleveland is live. Like, yeah, Cleveland was actually live before LeBron James. Did you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. Is it snowing there yet? Like, is it you guys got snow already?
It is snowing. I'm actually in Chattanooga, Tennessee right
Okay.
now, working, but it is snowing at home. But what's ironic is it is about 35 degrees, 40 degrees in Cleveland, and it's also 35, 40 degrees in Chattanooga. I'm like, what the heck is this? I could have stayed at home if I was going to get these type of temperatures.
That's crazy. Well, so for anyone who doesn't know you, let's say they don't know anything about your comedy, let's just kind of give us a kind of background of your comedy career and how you got started in comedy, and then what led to Dry Bar and to your new venture of Jay Stevens and Friends. Just kind of give us.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you know what, man? Some comics, they kind of grow into comedy. They wake up one day and they say, "Man, I want to be a comedian." And they go through classes, they go through all the whole learning process, and eventually they become a great comedian or funny comedian, or they don't, they give up. Then there's some of us that came out the womb making people laugh. You know what I'm saying? And that's me. I've just been a silly guy my entire life. I've always loved making people laugh. If you ask my teachers, who some of them are followers of me on social media now, they say this is exactly what you were supposed to have been doing. I knew it in elementary school, high school, junior high school. So, look, man, I have always been a funny dude. But ironically, I never wanted to be a comedian. I never really looked at it as being something that I wanted to pursue because I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I did the entrepreneurship thing and still do to this day, which we'll talk about a little later. But I've just always been a silly guy, love making people laugh. And one day, it was like God was like, yo, why are you wasting the gift that I gave you? I'm like, what are you talking about? People get paid to do what you're doing for free. So that was kind of like the start of it, man. My very first show was actually at a church and like from 1999 going into 2000. So we did like the watch night service. And after watch night service, once it hit midnight, we had a comedy show. And that was my very first actual real comedy performance.
Wow. Well, that's being thrown into the fire. That's the lion's den, like right away.
Yeah, right away. And it was so crazy because I did it. Like I spent the time sitting down writing. I was like, okay, let's do this. When you're ready to do something, you gifted and anointed to do something, God has called you to do it. It just flows, man. And it just flowed for me. I'm not saying I didn't have to learn and make mistakes and all that kind of stuff. Of course not. But I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That I grew up being the kid that was like kind of the class clown, but I always had teachers say, you're never going to get anywhere in life trying to be the funny guy. You're never going to get anywhere. You're not going to do anything. Right. So I got told the opposite thing of like, that's not what you're going to do. And so I was like, oh man. And I also grew up thinking that you had to be famous already to be a comedian. Like you had, like,
Hmm.
I didn't realize that like Steve Martin went from comedian to actor. I thought you went from actor and
Right.
then you comedian type thing. So I didn't know how that process was. So I never pursued it either for a long time. I just kind of like left it. But I was always the funny guy amongst my friends and the funny
Right.
people,
Right.
bring humor to maybe a bad situation or deal with it. And then being in the military, we have all the gallows humor you could possibly want in any situation whatsoever. So used to that. So very similar. And then, finally it took me until 35 to decide, oh, maybe I should try that. Maybe I should go,
Okay.
so I did all the business stuff, MBA, work in corporate, try to
Hmm.
all the things you hate, where I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do for the
Yeah.
rest of
Yeah.
my life.
And it's so funny because you went from making good money to
Yeah.
making a fraction of what you used to make, but you feel fulfilled though. It's like,
Yeah.
I know this. There's nothing worse, and there's so many people. Miles Monroe is known for this. Well, actually, I don't think Miles Monroe said it. I think maybe Les Brown said it first.
Okay.
That the richest place in the world is the cemetery, because so many people they made good money, but they were miserable because they never tapped in to someone that was up. That's why you could take someone that makes six figures, say they're an accountant, they make six figures a year, and you can take someone that's operating in their gift that makes five figures a year. I'm talking like 30,000,
Yeah.
35, 40,000. And that person is happier than the person that's making the six figures. They go to bed fulfilled. They go to work happy. Like, oh my God, I can't wait for this comedy show. Oh my God, I can't wait for this singing performance. I'm playing the guitar for this band, or I'm doing this poetry, spoken word, or this art show. They're fulfilled and they don't make nowhere near the amount of money. And now you begin to understand when you work it in your gift, you're like, man, I see why money isn't everything. And of course, you want to make good
Right.
money in life, of course. But my God, when you fulfill in your dreams and your goals, man, there's nothing better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I went from jobs making 90, 100,000, where it's just like a grind every day. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And
Hmm.
so you're just worn out. And now it's like, yeah, I don't make 100,000. I make a good living, but I'm happy every day. And I get up and I go do the thing that I want to do. And I entertain people. I have a show later tonight. Like I'm just constantly doing the things that I love, and the benefits are coming, right? They're growing and snowballing over time. So that's great. So now you also have your Jay Stevens and Friends, which is like a clean comedy entertainment company, right? You provide clean comedy.
Yes.
And now, where is it all over? Do you provide comedy anywhere in America, all over the world? What is it?
So, so I'm just starting off just in Cleveland, or in
Okay.
Ohio. In Ohio,
Right.
I'm because my schedule is so busy that I'm just doing one show a quarter
Okay.
in my city. But the goal is to definitely expand over the region and then over the country with what I'm providing. And I'm super duper excited, man, because one thing I've learned, because I'm a clean comic, but I'm a clean comic that I'll be right at the edge, and it's so fun. But I've had so many people come to me in comedy clubs. Like, let me tell you something. It is so refreshing to come to the improv or to hilarities or whatever comedy club it is in your city, and to hear clean comedy. And so from hearing that from person after person, year after year, I'm like, you know what? Clean comedy actually is a market. And uh, so here I am. I'm tapping into it, even though I've always tapped into it because I do cruise ships now. I've
Right.
been doing cruise ships for years. I do cruise ships. I've been doing churches for 20 plus years. But now it's really dawning on me there really is a market for clean comedy. So that's what Jay Stevens and Friends is, man. We are a entertainment company that provide only clean comedy shows, and I'm like super duper excited. But Dry Bar actually tapped into it. Dry Bar started it,
Yes.
tapped into it, and man, they just killed the game with it. They killed the game.
They are the best, and I have a lot of friends that have done dry bar. I have a lot of friends. I just had Jeff Shaw on recently. My
Yeah,
friend,
Jeff is from Cleveland.
yeah. Paul
Yeah.
Moomjean is just had his special drop. My buddy David Studebaker, Robert G. Lee, who's a mentor of
Hmm.
mine. Like so many people have done dry bar, so it's one of those things where they also all do this thing of like, are you getting ready? Are you getting ready? Are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing everything. I promise you. I'm not like,
Hmm.
I want to be ready. I want it where like, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I want it like the moment I do dry bar, if I never do anything else, I want that to be the thing. Like I want it to be
Yeah,
my Chris Rock bigger and blacker, right? That's what I really want
yeah,
it to be.
yeah.
Right? I got,
Uh-huh.
that's the special that resonates with me more than any special. That's like
For
my favorite
sure.
comedy
For
special of
sure.
all
Okay.
time.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so I want it to be that moment where it's like, wow, if no one ever sees me ever do stand up again in my life, I never go anywhere. That's my only big thing that I want
Hmm.
people to go back and be like, man, this guy was this was awesome. I loved watching this. I'll watch this 15
Absolutely.
times in a row type thing. So yeah,
Absolutely. And dry bar can do that for you because so many people they are on the platform for dry bar, they market it very well.
yeah,
Their following is so huge that when you do when they do drop your special, it's going to hit so hard, and so many people will you will get some work from it, and your name will get out there. You know, like you knew me before we even did the interview. You
yeah,
know, after you reached out, you're like, wait a minute. I know Jay. I seen the Dry Bar special. You know what I'm saying? And so, so Dry Bar really, really did the thing. And clean comedy, man, it just clean comedy opens so many opportunities for comics that they don't understand. So, like comics that's watching this, listen to me, listen, listen, listen. You don't have to be a dirty comic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking comics that are not clean because there's a genre for everybody. But starting off clean, you get so many opportunities besides being that barroom potty mouth comic. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you know, because even if you look at it, even if you look at who's on top of the food chain right now, Kevin Hart is somewhat a clean comic. Dave Chappelle is somewhat I don't a clean comic. And when I say that, when I say clean, I don't mean your material. I mean your delivery.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? If you got a 100-word joke, 35 of the words aren't cuss words.
right,
So when you look at Dave Chappelle, you look at Kevin Hart, you look at Brian Regan, you look at uh, oh shoot oh my Seinfeld, you look at Jerry
yes, Jerry
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld,
You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? These guys are clean comics that's really killing the game, or maybe not necessarily full clean comics, but their delivery is it can be
yeah,
delivered in a way they're like, yeah, I see that. But then you got some comics who aren't necessarily clean, but they aren't necessarily like, I guess, X-rated or filthy that are killing the game. Bill Burr, Gabriel Iglesias, Joe Coy. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
you have these comics that are really just killing the game. So you don't have to. And I think that being a clean comic who don't curse as much, if it is 100-word joke, it allows you to be creative because you have to put on your thinking cap to say, okay, if this is 100-word joke, all 100 words I need to occupy. I'm not adding a cuss word in there. So it's
yep,
easy to put 35, 40 cuss words in a 100-word joke. But when you got 100 words and maybe 95 of them is clean and maybe you add a few, or if you don't, that makes you think and it makes you write.
yeah. I always tell people that, and I think Robert G. Lee might have told me this, is that you can always dirty up clean, but you can't clean
Yes.
up dirty, right? So you can always take a clean joke and add stuff to it. So if someone says, if you get opportunity to go to like cruise ships and they say, hey, you got to have a dirty set and a clean set, because I've heard that
Hmm.
before, and you only do
Yeah.
clean, you just go, okay, and then you just slip in one word, and now that's
Yeah.
a dirty joke, like that's all you have to do,
Exactly.
and so that's just the easy way to do it. And you can still do all your clean stuff. Now you just drop in one word and then move on. You fulfilled your obligation of doing a dirty joke or dirty jokes, and you go. Not that
Hmm.
I would do it, but not that I want to that I want to do dirty jokes. But if I can
Right,
slip
right,
in
right.
something that sounds dirty or even feels dirty and it's not really dirty, I'd be okay with that too. So
But here's the thing. Just since we're on that vein, I
yeah,
do cruise ships like a lot, and
right,
you have to have at least one 40-minute clean, one 40-minute adult. Okay,
right,
I'm the kind of I don't cuss like at all, right? I can do my style
yeah,
for the clean and for the dirty, and the crowd be like, "Oh my God, you are hilarious."
right,
So it's also the delivery of the comic because I just was on the cruise ship It was two comics. It was me and the other female. She was filthy. When I say filthy, she struggled doing clean. Like she loved filthy.
Wow.
And she did her thing, and I did my thing. You know what I'm saying? And nobody compared my clean slash adult show to her filthy adult show. It
Right.
was like, yo, we came to both. We enjoyed her adult show and we enjoyed your adult show. So it's just about the delivery of the comic.
That makes sense. I like that. That's a good way to think about it. Now, when you did your adult show, did you add a couple of words to make it adult, or did you just kind of do your thing
No,
and it just felt
I
like
just do
whatever?
my thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
so
do my
awesome.
thing because I don't cuss at all because I
Yeah,
started in the church, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a man of God. So but I will talk about everything. I will,
right,
there's a way you could talk about sex because everybody has sex. You could talk
right.
about marriage, kids, job, politics, whatever you could talk about dirty, you could talk about clean without
Yeah.
adding the cuss word. And they like, this dude is hilarious. You know how many people that come to me after comedy shows and comedy clubs and say, yo, I noticed one thing at the end of the show. You didn't curse at all. And then it blows their mind because they're like, how did you not cuss during the entire show, man? You had me dying, and I just realized you did not cuss at all. And it amazes some people, man, especially like older people. They are hilarious because they used to the Richard Pryors, the Red Foxes, the George Carlins,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? They used to that. So when they see a comment, they're like, man, you had me dying and you did not cuss. That's like unheard of. You know, so it's just the delivery of the comic.
that's awesome. Now, how long ago did you start Jay Stevens and Friends? And like, what, like, is it for private gigs or you just start producing? You said you produce quarterly shows, but is the goal to do private gigs and then help bring other clean comedians in to like book them at other venues? Like, what's the idea behind it?
So I just want to provide. I mean, it definitely. If somebody called me and said, "Hey, I'm having this event, you know, for Nike. We want, you know, 3 comics for your corporate event." Of course, I could put that together.
Right.
But for the most part, Jay Stevens and Friends is the name of it. So
Okay.
whenever we're doing it each quarter, it's Jay Stevens and Friends. That's the name of the show. So it's
Okay.
myself and 2 other clean comics.
Oh, that's awesome. And are they local
Yeah.
comics, like local to Cleveland, or you
No,
just grab from wherever?
no. I'm not using no local comics. I'm using comics from around the country.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And then where does
Yeah.
where are the shows usually at? Like where in?
So in Cleveland, there's it's a place called the Civic Center. It's a 500 seater, and that's where we're at. That's where we're doing them at. And
That's awesome.
we're just growing them, man. I want to take it to our theaters, our local theaters, which seat between 1,500 to 5,000. Depends on which theater I use. So that's the goal, to get them there and just to take them to different cities because they are so in every city. I'm in Cleveland, which is a major city. We have we have 3 different venues that do comedy, and they use the typical. We have an improv, we have another club called Hilarities, and they all use the popular names.
Right.
And another one that's there. All 3 of them use the popular names, and the popular names are funny, of course. But I've been doing comedy for 20 years, so I know the comics that are hilarious that are not popular names that I'm bringing to the city, and people like, yo, who are these dudes? These dudes was hilarious. That's what I'm doing.
I love that. I love that. That is what I always try to tell comedians, like, give more time to people that are funny to get them exposed to more people, because all it does is help comedy in the long run, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's kind of like, I always think of it as like, I use sports analogies. I think of it as sports. Like, you see someone playing, maybe I grew up playing baseball. You see someone playing like, minor league baseball or coming up in the little league. You're like, man, that guy's awesome. I can't wait to see him in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to high school. You're like, man, he's great. I hope he does well in college. He goes to college. And you're like, oh, I am ready to see him play in major
Mm-hmm.
leagues. And then next thing you know, he's in the farm league and up in the majors. And you're like, that's awesome. I saw him back when whatever. There was a guy that played for the Dodgers AJ, who I watched play in Las Vegas for the 51s baseball, and I watched him as a catcher, watch him play, and I was like, man, I hope he plays for a team one day. He went to the Dodgers, and then I met him afterwards, and I was like, yo, I saw you play in Vegas or whatever, and he's like, really? That's awesome. So I see him before, and that's a great feeling of like this. You feel like you're discovering something too before everyone else jumps on the train. You know, I'm sure people felt that way about Kevin Hart when he was doing Philly and doing stuff with Patrice O'Neal, or Chris Rock when he was first coming up and stuff. Just a lot of people like that. You just go, oh my gosh, it's so amazing to see that. And I love that when you share things like that, because you're gonna.
And what I'm doing is I'm not necessarily using people that are coming up in the ranks.
Right.
I'm using people that are already in the ranks that are just hilarious because I've been in the game for 20 years, but there are still people who don't know who I am.
Right.
So I'm not coming up in the ranks. I'm in the ranks, but I'm still getting put out there to people who don't know who I am. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing comedians who are professional headliners, and we're just putting on a show. And my show actually is a little different than your typical MC does 10, feature does 20, headliner does 45 for an hour. No, my show is 3 headliners, and we all do 30 minutes. So you're not getting an okay comic that's an MC, which most MCs are just starting off, so they're okay. And then the feature, who is, cool or funny, and then the headliner. No. You're getting 3 headliners who are hilarious, and the show is funny from beginning to end, because the ticket prices the funny that I'm providing must match the ticket prices that I'm selling the show for. So.
Right. That's awesome. I'm so excited for that. So, if just out of curiosity, if you had to go back in time and start comedy over, you got to go back in time, you had to go tell your younger self, give them tips or whatever to start comedy, what would be the biggest thing that you would go back and tell yourself?
Start sooner.
Start sooner. Okay.
Start sooner. Wow. Because I see so many people's stories. Like, let me see. Okay, I'm 46. This is 2022. I started 22 years ago. So it's at 46, 26. At 24, I started. If I would have started like at 18 or 19, I think it would have been completely different.
Yeah.
I think my career would be further.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I didn't start till 35. I'm now in my early 40s, but I didn't. Yeah. I also wish I would have started sooner. I just did so many other things where I was like, it's not a thing. Like, it wasn't even on my radar as like a thing I could do. It's just one of those things like, yeah, whatever. Like, maybe it'd be great. It'd be fun to do sometime. It'd be awesome. And not thinking it was worth it. And I literally did it just so I could mark it off my bucket list for my 35th birthday. And then it just snowballed from there, where people are like, oh, you're funny, you should do X, Y, and Z. And then just like, oh, really? And like kept going. So now this is where we are. So I'm grateful that
I wish I would have started earlier. Dave Chappelle actually had said that he, started in high school. And I feel that, because I think if I would have started in high school, I could have did the talent shows in high school and different things like that, just to see what happened to I like doing plays and movies and commercials. So actually get into drama classes. And I would have definitely told myself, start earlier, because you would have learned more. You, instead of just hanging out, and I love sports and doing sports, you also could have did the drama classes and the talent shows, and even though it wasn't no such thing as social media back then, you still could have built a following of how funny you were. So I definitely would have told myself start sooner.
Yeah, that's the thing is I wish I would have too, because I did, I played in band, I played baseball, I played football, I did a choir, all that stuff, but I never thought of doing drama or whatever. Like I was like, oh, that's I'm not good at that thing, but I should have really realized, because people are like, oh, you're so funny. I was the funny guy in my group. They're like, oh, James will say something funny. James will do something funny. James will whatever. And that was all. But I was just like, oh, I'm just a silly person. Like, it's okay. Not realizing, actually, the person that made me realize you could do something with silly, like really silly, was like Jim Carrey when he came up on like In Living Color and like Ace Drill. Then I was like, oh, that's awesome. I want to be like that. And I was like the silly guy doing voices and whatever and stuff. So that's the thing is I like that. That's a great one. Now, what like tip would you give yourself for performing? Maybe writing, performing, something like that. What tip would you give yourself for that?
Or
a young comedian starting out.
You know what? I don't think I would have told myself anything different.
Okay.
And that's not just from arrogance. That's just even to this day I still learn. So it's like,
Yeah.
I learned from the beginning. I watched the process. You know what I would have told myself younger? Stay patient. Don't
Oh,
want don't want more than you can handle so early.
that is actually
Because
great advice.
as comics, we actually do, you know. And okay, here's some advice for your younger comics. There's nothing wrong with the word no. I'm not ready. Because if you get out there too soon, you will damage your name. So when you are ready, they're like, I kind of tried you already. And let me also say this. Let me say this. Crowd work is not material. So if you're an MC doing 10 minutes and a club wants to hire you to be a feature to do 25 minutes, and you're like, oh yeah, I got 25 minutes, but you technically only have 12 minutes of material and you think you're going to get away with 12 minutes of crowd work, that's not material because every crowd don't like crowd work.
Yep.
So the key is stay patient because we're not athletes. There's no cap of when we can be there or we're done. There's no cap. You started in your 20s. I started in my 20s. I know comics that start in their 40s. Rodney Dangerfield started in his 50s.
Yep.
There's so many people, and we can do this until we die. So if we die in our 80s, here we are. We got 40 more years to make people laugh. And let me tell you something. I don't care what the world comes to, laughter isn't going anywhere.
That's right.
So be patient. Do your 10 minutes. Be the best MC in your city. Let them say, man, this guy, Mark has a fire 10 minutes. Let them hire you for your 10 minutes. And then as you grow, here's the key to know you can go from a MC to a feature. When if you at a club on a Friday and you're doing 2 shows, if you can do 10 minutes that first show and a completely different 10 minutes the second show, now you're ready to be a feature. And then when you're ready to go from feature to headliner, if on that first show you can do 25 minutes and the second show you can do a completely different 25 minutes, now you're ready to be a headliner. Never confuse crowd work with material and be patient.
I love that. That is actually probably the biggest advice. And even though I feature, I love emceeing. It's one of my favorite things because it's you have to take the bullet. You have to be funny immediately. You can't kind of rest on your laurels and work your way into your set. You got to hit it right away. So I love it. So I do a lot of MC work locally just because one, they know I can MC and host and run a room, but I love it. I love okay, this is you have to bring it. You can't play.
Yeah, you're right. I had saw an analogy years ago on Facebook. They was talking about an MC, a feature, and a headliner. They used guns as an example. You would appreciate this because you're from Texas. They said the MC is a machine gun, quick. They said the feature is a handgun, pop, 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 pop. They said the headliner is a shotgun. Boom, I could take my time. Boom. I was like, that's a great analogy.
That is a great analogy because that's exactly right. Because if you come up there as the MC and you don't bring, energy and excitement and fun right away, and you don't get the room warmed up for comedy, it's over. Like the show just gonna slowly go down.
Yep.
Yeah.
You said the magic thing. We can't skip over that. You just said something so powerful that MCs need to know. The job of the MC is to get the stage ready for the other two comics.
Yep.
Yes, you want to be funny, but your main job is to prepare the show for the other comics. Yep. And you have to remember that. So you have to be energetic. You have to know that it's not about you. It's about the MC, the feature and the headliner. Yep. And you have to be funny, but you have to be professional. You have to be energetic, professional, funny. And here's the key. Never do material in between comics unless you're told to.
Yep. Exactly right. That's exactly right. And that is why I love being the MC. It's so much fun. You do the energy. I just like being in that space of setting the room up, of making it fun. It's not
Hmm.
about, I want to have fun. And
Yeah.
for me, the MC is the most fun because you have, like, you bring it. You just,
Yeah.
here we go. We're all here for comedy. Let's go,
Hmm.
everybody. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're all here for comedy, and we're all on the same page. And so it's so much fun for me. And I've heard comedians go like, you've been doing it for a long time. Like, why are you being an MC? Like, I love being an MC. Like,
It's fun. It really
yeah.
is fun. It really is.
Listen, I like being a feature. I like going on the road. I like for opening for headliners. But when
Hmm.
I can MC, that, to me, that's fun. There's like, there is a
It
lot
is
of pressure.
fun.
It's a pressure spot, but
Hmm.
it lets you be ready for pressure, because when you go to the feature spot, there's not a lot of pressure. You don't have a lot of
Right.
pressure at the feature spot.
Right.
That's the
Right.
least amount of pressure you'll ever have as
Hmm.
a show, is a feature. Because if you do okay, people are like, okay, we're here to see the headliner anyways. We don't care, right?
Yep.
We don't care.
Yep.
If you do great, great. You just made the show better. But there's no, the onus isn't on you. So yeah.
Yep. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And being an MC, you're in a good spot too, because it shows how funny you are.
Yeah.
Because if you can make people laugh that are being seated, getting themselves prepared to get their drinks, get their food, they're cozying in, and some people are there specifically just to see the
See the
headline.
headline. Yep.
So if you can make them laugh as an MC, man, you're doing a great job. You are
Yeah.
headed somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it. So anytime I'm in town and somebody says, hey, do you want to MC something? Yes. I'll do it 100%. I have people like, oh, you sure you don't want to I don't care. I'll do whatever, but I like being the MC. And so I'm lucky enough that I get to work with JR's Comedy Club, that I get to MC their shows in Simi Valley. I get to MC their shows in Valencia.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. They let me do it. They say, they trust me, and I get great feedback from other comedians who are like, man, you're so funny. You're just an MC.
Good.
I'm like, I tour. I just love being the MC. It's so much fun. It's a great thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what part of Texas you in?
Well, I live in LA now, but I grew
Oh,
up
you live in LA. Okay.
Yeah. But I grew up in Central Texas, Temple, Waco, that kind of area of Texas.
Okay, got you.
So yeah, so I miss Texas. I'll be honest with you, I miss Texas. I kind of want to go home, but I love LA. I get to do all the stuff I want to do. I get to write and do all my comedy stuff, so I'm happy.
Okay, got you. Yeah, I'm here in Chattanooga at a club called the Comedy Catch, and my feature actually is from Cali, from Long Beach. His name is Wyatt Cody. Are you familiar with him?
I've heard his name. I have not met him personally. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He's a funny guy. He actually, I think last year in 2021, he won the World Series of Comedy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I know him.
Yeah. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Jay, thanks for taking time to be on the podcast. Where can people find you? Where can they see your schedule? Where you're going to be? All that kind of stuff.
You plug anything absolutely. Follow me on Instagram at J Stevens Live. I said the at like an old person. J that's like when you're talking to an old person. Like, what's your website? They always start off with www. I know that part already, sir. Yeah, you can find me on J Stevens Live. J Stevens Live. JAY. Stevens Live, and that's the website, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. That is hilarious.
that is funny, because I've done that where I've been at church or whatever, and someone's like, you know what I saw on www.cnn. And I'm like, just say CNN.com or just say CNN. Like, I was on www.foxnews.com yesterday, and you're like, no, like, you don't got to tell me the www.
So funny, man.
That's how you know someone's age. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the old commercials when the internet first started, and they would go like, go to www.whatever.com. And you're like, and now they just go to, just like, go to johnsonandjohnson.com, and you're like, okay. Like, they don't do that, but they used to always do the www for everything. And so,
that was so funny, man.
I wonder when the last time they made a commercial that had the www like that. That someone said it,
That is so funny. I wonder who was the last commercial that did that. So when they finally did it, somebody was finally like, "Don't add the www."
Yeah. There was like one young person like, "You don't need that anymore." They're like,
"You don't need that anymore. You're wasting space. We only got 15 seconds."
Yeah, that www is taking up 5 seconds. Stop doing that. That's awesome. So Jay Stevens Live, I'll put all the links in the show notes so you guys can check him out. He's very hilarious. Go check out his dry bar special. So it's called Life is Hilarious. Go watch it. It's amazing. You're going to laugh your butt off, I promise. And Jay, thank you again for being on the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like, subscribe. Please, if you're following on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, please go subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to get more and more and more. I know I see you guys subscribing, so I know it's going up. I know you're all paying attention. Please do that. And then also, if you're listening on like iTunes or whatever, make sure that you add the podcast to your subscribe to the podcast there. That totally helps as well. Thank you so much. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.